Okay, we are live, Chris. Guys,
Hi,
so we are joined
everybody.
today by Chris, psychic medium, and she's going to talk about living in a haunted house for 14,
Yeah, yeah,
14
14
years.
years.
14 years. So, how old were you when you moved into this home?
Well, we moved into the home in Saginaw, Michigan when I was 6 and my brother was 9. So we were very young and very vulnerable, come to find out.
So, your when you first moved in, I don't know if you had any first impressions at 6. What were your
I
first
did.
impressions?
I did. Well, Mom and Dad decided to move from St. Clair Shores, Michigan up to Saginaw because Dad went ahead and bought into a franchise. Okay, so he wanted to start his own business. So he bought into a franchise that happened to be available only in Saginaw. Okay, so this was okay, and I'm probably dating myself here, but it was Lafayette Radio that was based out of Lafayette, Indiana. They have since been bankrupt. Okay, so he bought into a franchise and he wanted to start his own business. So we moved up to Saginaw and we moved in December. Okay, and if anybody's familiar with Michigan, December is a very cold month. And this was in okay, and again I'm dating myself, but it was 1972 and we had really really bad weather. So we had moved in December, and at age 6, my first impression when I walked into the house was the house almost seemed colder inside than it did outside. And remember, this is December in Michigan, you guys. It's cold. It's extremely cold. And when I walked in, I was just like, ooh. I I had a very uneasy feeling. It felt like somebody was watching me. You know, when you're out in public and you kind of go, ew, you know,
Yes, you
you
feel
get
it.
like
You feel it.
somebody's boring a hole in the back of your neck.
Yeah.
And that's the feeling that I had as soon as we stepped foot into that house. And that feeling never went away. And I had told my mom at age 6, mind you, I says, I don't like this house. And she said, oh, she says, nah, you'll get used to it. It's just a new house, a new area. You'll get adjusted. No, no, never did. Never did. That feeling of being watched never went away in that household. So when people go, oh, wow, you lived in a house that was haunted. Oh, how cool. Try it.
Can I ask, when was your first experience?
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. I don't know if this is coincidence or not. I don't know. But when we first moved in, every single one of us got the flu. I mean, the flu. We were sicker than dogs, right? So, excuse me. Um, and thank God, my mom's not listening because she would just roll her eyes at this one. Dad was in the bathroom, and all of a sudden, I heard him yell, Lois, help! I need your help! I need your help! The septic system completely overflowed. There was sewage just rolling out of the
Oh my
toilet
gosh.
all over the floor. Okay, probably coincidence, right? I don't know. But there seems to be a lot of coincidences in this house, and we will touch on that a little bit, later. But I would have to say probably the first major there was little things that happened that you were like, "Oh, that must be my imagination, or, you know, I was tired and I know I set that item there and it disappeared. And then I turn around and it's right where I left it and it reappears and it was gone a minute before. And I'm like, maybe I just overlooked it. You see, you play games with yourself, right? And the thing with living in a house that's haunted, now the audience has to understand we were not living with Casper the friendly ghost whatsoever, guys. This was not a friendly ghost, okay? But friendly or not, this is like an uninvited house guest that just won't go away. There's no privacy. There is no privacy in your house, in your bedroom, in your bathroom, family get togethers, when you're by yourself, there's no privacy, none. So that tends to make you be a little bit on edge because it's almost like a cat waiting to pounce on its prey. You know something's going to happen. You just don't know what, where, when, or to what extent. Okay, so every time you turn a corner, you don't know what you're going to come across. So you're constantly in that state of fight or flight. And if you look up what the fight or flight chemicals happen in your system, it's not good. So you're physically affected and you're also emotionally and mentally affected. So actually, there is nowhere to hide. There isn't nowhere to hide. And this is going to tie into my next really big thing that happened. I was 8 years old. Okay. Anybody has a child that's 8 years old, put your child in this situation. Okay. So I had our cousin had come over and she was probably 6. She's a couple of years younger. And it was rainy out, so we couldn't go outside and play. So we decided to play hide and seek in the house. Oh, yeah. That wasn't good. So I decided to hide behind the bathroom door. And I could see my cousin between the, door frame and the door going up and down the hallway looking for me. So she ran down the hallway, then she came back. Then she ran down the hallway, and then she came back. And then she went into my room. I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. And I'm like, what is she doing in my room? What is going on? So she finally came out of my room, came down the hallway, and she stopped right in front of the bathroom door where I was hiding. And she had this look of panic and fear on her face. And I thought, oh, she just can't find me. So I would give her a hint. So I took my fingers and I put it through the crack of the door. And I did this. And she saw me and ha ha ha, I found you. And then after that, she didn't want to play anymore. She was like really, really close to her, stay close to my aunt, her mom. She wouldn't play anymore. And I asked her, I says, why were you in my room for so long? She goes, I wasn't in there that long. And I go, what happened in my room? She goes, I don't want to talk about it. To this day, she's never discussed it. Never discussed it. So that night they went home and I was in the living room with mom and dad watching TV and it was time to go to bed. Okay. So I started walking down the hallway and I don't know, the air started feeling thick, heavy. Like I had a hard time walking down the hall, like I was walking through quicksand, if that makes any sense. And I happened, all the hair, I'm not kidding you guys, all the hair on my neck, my arms, everything stood up on end like an electrical charge. And I stopped right in front of the bathroom door where I was earlier that day, right? And I happened to turn my head and I looked and a hand came out from behind the door and wiggled its fingers. And I started screaming, just screaming, and it stopped and it drew back. Now, what I saw was a child's hand but under the nails was dirt, and the skin was decayed and hanging off the fingers. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
And so, when I say paralyzed with fear, it does happen. I couldn't move to save my life. And I was screaming at the top of my lungs. My brother came out of the bedroom because he was sleeping. He's like, what's going on with Chris? My parents came running down the hallway, and I was shaking from head to toe, and I couldn't talk. Finally, once I went ahead and was able to speak, I told them what I had seen, and they said, oh, you're just overly tired. Let's go to bed. I wasn't overly tired, was not overly tired whatsoever. And I had asked my mom years down the road, I says, how do you know what I told you was the truth? She says, Chris, she says, over the years, your story has never changed. She said, if it were a lie, the story would have changed. It's never changed. And I went to bed that night. Of course, I couldn't sleep. And it dawned on me, I said, oh my God, this thing just mimicked what I did earlier that day, playing hide and seek. So now I know it can see us, and I know that it can hear us because it mimicked exactly what I did. And if anybody gets a chance, pull up my paranormal nightmare, season 1, episode 8, called Trapped. The first story is me and my brother Dave. Everything that they had on that show is truthful. The only thing that they took artistic license on because of time constraints was they had combined 2 instances into one scene, because for time constraints they had 14 years to put together. So it was it's not fun. And it took Mom years before she would actually come out and give her experiences of the household. And Dad never spoke of it, and he never will, because he passed away 2 years ago. But whenever we spoke of it, Dad clammed shut right down.
Why did you guys stay so long?
We had no choice. And it's very I have talked with other people that were in similar circumstances, and there's things that occur that keep you trapped there. Okay.
Yeah.
Dad's business failed. We went into bankruptcy. We did not have the money to go anywhere. We were stuck. We were absolutely stuck. So until he was able to get another job and, get money rolling, get money back, he went ahead and bought some property, probably about 20 minutes south of us, and built a house. And so that's what took us so long to be able to escape that household. And it was just such a relief. Oh my God, we could breathe. We could just breathe. So when somebody goes, oh, cool, I would love to live in a haunted house. No, you don't understand the emotional, mental, and physical toll it takes on you, because back in the day, we didn't have paranormal teams on every corner to talk to get help. If you admitted to anybody that these things were going on in your house, they would fit you for a jacket that tied in the back, and they would put you in a very comfortable room. You know what I'm saying? And you would get labeled as a paranoid schizophrenic, and there was no place to turn to. So we were very isolated. So that's the other, excuse me, that's the other thing that affects you emotionally, because you feel very isolated, you feel very alone, so you fall into depression. You have sleep like deprivation, you have insomnia. When you get the depression bouts, you sleep a lot. Oh, hey, Sue. Hi, I'm glad you could make it. Sue, if you have any questions, go ahead and let me know. Sue doesn't really know the whole background about, my experiences, so that's why I invited um, everybody to come along and experience what I went through. And um, there's no reason why I would make these stories up. I wish to God they never happened to us, but they did. And if I went through a polygraph right now, you guys, I'd pass it with flying colors. There's no reason why I need to make up these stories. I mean, they're so out there. I'm not that imaginative. I can't make that stuff up. I just can't.
So if you could like give advice to somebody like a kid living in a home that's haunted today, I mean, what advice or, would you give them to?
Keep talking. Keep talking. Keep talking to your parents. Journal, write things down. But more to the point, I have advice for parents. Listen to your children. It may not be their imagination. It may not be a story that they're playing. What if? If your child comes to you and says, hey, this is what I saw, this is what I feel, share in that experience. Say, okay, well, let me stay the night in your room. Let's watch, let's listen, when my parents told me that, oh, you're just overly tired, you imagined it. As a child, that made me feel like they thought I was lying. They didn't believe me. So if I don't have my parents to turn to, where do I go? Where do I go? And children are very perceptive, okay? Because we're not that far at that age from the veil, okay? And that's something that we'll get into at a different conversation. But I think this entity that was in this house concentrated on me because it knew before I knew that I had abilities. I'm a psychic medium empath, right? And that's another story we'll get into later. But it knew that I could see it, I could hear it, and I would be the most influenced by the things that it did. Okay. So, and it always waited till you were alone. So you would question your mind. And don't ask me why, but I truly feel that whatever was in that house, and it's still there, and I'll tell you why I know this, but whatever was in that house, I don't feel that it was ever a living being. I don't. Because I've been on many investigations because I'm the founder of Mid-Michigan Paranormal Researchers. I know the difference. Okay. I have the gift of discernment. I know. And, oh, yeah, Barb, it was horrible. Especially as a kid. It just, you can't explain it. And, it's horrible.
It was darker.
I mean, it was just something that made your skin crawl, literally made your skin crawl. And when I'm come across hauntings that were a living person at some point, I don't get that creepy crawly feeling, right? I don't get that. So that's the difference. Okay. So with all the experiences that I had in that house, really helps me during investigations, because if something moves, okay, seen it. If I hear something, heard it. I just don't get rattled. I'm rock solid, you know. And I'm not going to be the one that goes, dude, run, right?
You think it was the house, or you think it was the land, or do you?
Well, okay, I am going to say that it had to have also included the land, and I'll tell you why. Um, there was one night I was home alone. Okay, and you guys, this I was young enough. I couldn't drive. I didn't have a car. Nobody was home. Um, I didn't have access to calling anybody for help. So, anyways, I'm sitting at the table. I'm playing solitaire. Had the radio going. It was summer, so I had the patio door open, and we have a fenced-in yard, right? And it's a like an old wooden rickety fence. So if somebody would have hiked over the fence, I would have heard it. So I hear something scurry across the patio. I'm like, okay, the animals are in. It's not the cat. It's not the dog. I'm like, okay, what's going on? So I thought maybe we had a raccoon in the backyard. So grabbed a flashlight and I went out and I flipped on the back door light because I went out the garage. And I'm looking around and I hear something running from my left side. And I turn and look, and mind you, I was probably about 5'9" at the time, real tall. This black mass, and I could feel the ground moving as it ran. And it was so tall that it was at the level of my knee. And it had run through in front of me, and I could hear the footsteps. I could feel the ground moving, and it was making the most awful, guttural growling and snarling. And you could hear it doing its jaws, like clacking. And it ran off to my right. But the thing that I noticed is that when this thing ran past me, it was giving off heat. Human ghosts don't give off heat, guys, right? They give off cold. They give off cold because they're pulling from the surrounding area to gain energy. This thing didn't need energy. It had its own energy. I had the feeling of the heat coming all the way up to my face. And I slammed the door. I locked everything down. And in the show, no lie, I grabbed the biggest butcher knife that I could find, and I locked myself in my bedroom until my brother came home. And he came home and opened the door, and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I told Dave what happened, and he goes, "Oh, it's probably just some rabid woodchuck. Ha ha ha." Again, you question your sanity. It's pulling stuff when you're by yourself, and nobody believes me. So the isolation, again, the isolation. And you just, you question, right?
How does it feel? I mean, to not even be like believed, or I just couldn't, I don't know.
Oh, well,
It makes you feel
depression. I mean, seriously, it throws you into a depression because they're thinking I'm a liar. They're thinking that I'm making this all up. I don't have anyone to turn to. So the isolation factor on this is just awful, just awful. And for anyone that's going through this, thank goodness you have people out there that you can turn to, that you can ask for help. And there are people out there that'd be more than happy, no problem, come out there, help, find out what's going on, get a handle on things, get rid of the fear. Okay, because anything that's negative, it feeds off of fear, guys. That's why it causes fear. That's why it creates havoc, because it feeds. Okay, it feeds off of that. So you got to get the fear under control. Okay, and know that there's people out there that'll help you. Okay, and you have to understand that whatever energy may be inhabiting that house, whether it's a non-living entity or at one time living entity, they have their own energy pattern. You have your own energy pattern. And it's almost like a symbiotic type of relationship, right? So I kind of equate spirits that need energy as kind of like a lamprey, where they latch on and they suck the life out of you. That's how they get their energy to manifest to do things. Okay, so it is a symbiotic type of link, whether you realize it or not. It's something that we're all meshed together, whether we're a living energy or not, or a past energy. It's still energy. It's still there.
So you're the only one that experienced. No. So your whole family did? Your mom and your dad, your brother?
Mm-hmm. Yep. My brother doesn't remember a whole lot, because when you go through something that is so traumatic, I find what ends up happening is that your brain compartmentalizes that trauma and puts it away, so you don't have to deal with it. And there's a trigger that you will come across that will bring that to the forefront. And that's when you're able to deal with that and come to terms with that. So for him, that may happen down the road, but he witnessed the after effect of what I went through. And my story's never changed with him either, because it's not a story, it's the truth. So he feels really, really bad because he didn't believe me. He says, if I had to do over again, which in the show, he says, I would have listened to her more. And to this day, he is worried that this entity is going to find us and cause havoc again. But I don't think it will. I think it's tied to the area. And we'll cover that in a second. I know that my dad experienced things, because whenever, like I said earlier, whenever we discussed it, he totally went blank. He totally shut down. So you cannot tell me he didn't go through something. Okay. But he didn't want to talk about it, which was fine. It was enough that I went through what I went through, my mom and everything. I didn't need to press him for that information. But I will tell you the one thing that I witnessed that happened to my dad, that this is something that nobody knows about. Right before we sold the house, and we sold the house to a couple that my mom knew from work, and we'll cover that a little bit. So this is going to tell you why I know it's still there. The furnace we just had an inspector come into the house. When you buy a house, you got to have an inspection, make sure everything's working, yada, yada. Everything was fine. The inspector said, okay, everything is working. Everything is fine. He says, but, the things are old. It could, go kaput tomorrow, whatever. So Dad it was October. In October, it was October 31st was actually the day we moved out. And there's a tie-in here also. So the furnace wasn't working. So he had gone down to check the furnace. So I hated the basement. Everybody hated the basement. Every time you came up the stairs, it felt like something was getting ready to jump on you. And the light never stayed screwed in. The light was always unscrewed and turned off. Didn't like it. So anyways, my dad went down. Dave was upstairs. And something told me, don't go down the stairs all the way. So I stopped midway. So I could see my dad by the furnace. And he was getting ready to pull the side panel off to take a look at what was going on. Now, mind you, my dad at this point was like 6'4", and excuse me for a moment. Sorry, I should have turned this off. Sorry, let me turn this off, guys. Sorry about that. So anyways, he had pulled that side panel off. And mind you, at this point, he had longer hair, he had a full face, full beard, everything, right? He stopped and he took like 3 steps back, and he had the look of fear, disbelief, and confusion all at one time on his face. And he just stood there and he stared into the furnace. I'm like, what's going on? And I heard a deep guttural growl emerge from the furnace, and a plume of fire came out and totally engulfed my dad, totally engulfed him. And I'm thinking,
Wow.
oh my God, I just saw my dad get killed. And all of a sudden the fire went right back into the furnace, and he's screaming for my brother, give me the fire extinguisher, give me the fire extinguisher. And he went running past me. Not one thing was singed on his face. His hair, his facial hair, his clothing, nothing. How does that happen? I don't know. And we called the furnace guy in. He couldn't find anything wrong with the furnace. After that, it worked just fine. Just fine. To this day, I don't know what he saw in that furnace. He never talked about it. I didn't dare ask him because I knew he wouldn't say anything. So that was the one thing I know for a fact that happened to my dad because I witnessed it.
And
Now,
Barbara,
what's that?
Barbara wants to know why your parents didn't tell you. Maybe it would scare you, like if they experienced anything.
That's exactly what happens. Because, okay, as a parent, you want to do what you can to protect your child. Okay. Because you don't want to fuel the fire. You don't want to make it worse. Because my mom was scared. I mean, don't get me wrong, but she could not let us know that. She didn't want to make it worse. So she did her due diligence. She made sure that she kept everyone, calm, and we got together and we did a lot of prayers. Mom's very much Roman Catholic, right? So, we would do the rosary, and that kept it at bay for a while. But then it would just ramp up again. And it's almost like it was making up for lost time, The one thing that my mom did admit to me, and I was very much taken aback by this, was when we first moved in. She said she was lying in bed one night, and she's like, it almost felt like, she goes, something wanted to get into my body. Something wanted to jump inside my body. And she says, I actually heard a voice say, let me in. And my mom says, no, you will not. And she said the Hail Mary until dawn. She said prayers until dawn. Yes. And so, of course, you don't want to admit that to your child. I mean, no, my God, that would make things even worse, And then she also admitted that now the kitchen was, I don't know why, but the kitchen was a very active area. The cupboard doors will always be open. The drawers will be open. The door to the garage would never stay closed. I don't care how hard you shut it or lock it or pull on it, would never stay closed or locked. But she was standing at the kitchen sink. And okay, now I'm not going to get into an argument about orbs, whether they're real or not. All right, kids. Orbs are real if you can see them with your I have and my mom has. Okay. She was at the kitchen sink, and from her shoulder, over her shoulder, from the basement landing where the garage door is, right, came an orb about the size of a grapefruit, and it was swirling like orange and yellows and reds. Came over her shoulder, hovered in front of her face, and then went out the kitchen window into the backyard where we've had a lot of incidents in the backyard. She saw it with her own eyes. And my mom is not, um, she doesn't lie. She doesn't make stuff up. She's not to flights of fancy whatsoever. She's very well grounded, level headed, and she would never make this up ever. And I totally believe her. Totally believe her. So it's so the people that we sold the home to, mom worked with her, and of course, we never said anything about the house because number one, they wouldn't believe us, right? And we were thinking maybe it was just us. Maybe it was just something that had occurred because we were there. We didn't know. So the last day was October 31st of 1987. That was our last day in the house. Me and my brother and my dad were standing in the garage. We were looking across the street, and we had a mailbox on a real, like a 4x4 wooden post, real sturdy, right? And we were like, oh, hey, this is our last day in the house. Woohoo. We got freedom. As soon as we said that, the mailbox went. Sorry.
Oh.
Gotcha. The mailbox fell right over, and we closed the garage door and we said, time to go. So when mom would work with the gal, she would come in and she would go, oh, to my mom, we heard footsteps in the kitchen. We thought somebody was in the house. And oh, that garage door would never stay closed. And oh, by the way, after we moved in, the furnace died, the sump pump died, the kitchen sink sprung a leak and damaged the flooring. There was a leak in the bathroom shower, destroyed the shower, destroyed the floor in the bathroom. And my dad had agreed to help them with half of the bill of the furnace. Now, he didn't have to do that. Why would he do that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's a big tell for me. But everything in that house just, oh, yeah. And the pear tree in the front yard got hit by lightning.
So do you think all of this happening was this, whatever it was, like saying, hey, I don't want you here? Or, I mean,
no,
so much?
I think it really enjoyed us being there. I think that it was something that it enjoyed playing us. It enjoyed getting energy from us. That house has been bought and sold and foreclosed on several times. Okay. And I do go over there once in a while just to go ahead and, see how people are doing, see how the neighborhood's doing, whatever. And the last time I was by there, I don't know why that, hold on, guys. I don't know why that keeps going out. And I had gone by there just, I don't know, a few weeks ago, and I'm like, oh no, they have children. Because there was a basketball hoop in the driveway. They have children. And I'm like, this thing's going to go after the children. They go after the vulnerable. And it takes me back to what we had gone through in the past. And it just makes my heart ache. It really makes my heart ache to know that those children are probably going to go through exactly the same things we did when we were children. And just, it makes my stomach ill. I get nauseated. Stop. I got a cat that wants to jump up here. Hang on. But it's just, it is what it is. It's in our past. We've learned from it. We've moved forward from it. But I do have to admit that it has made me angry because it stole our childhood. It stole our family. We went through hell. We went through hell in that house. And I don't wish it on my worst enemy. I don't. And I used to love swimming in the pool in the backyard. That came to a fast stop because when I was out there swimming by myself, you know how when you're swimming in water and seaweed starts pulling at your legs, right? Starts doing this number. I'm in a pool. There's no seaweed, right? I felt something grabbing at my legs. I turned around in the water and I had a black figure following me in the pool. My swimming by myself came to a fast end, quick end. So people have to understand that it is very real. And it's something that if you go through that, don't hesitate to find someone to help you because you're not losing it. You're not, you're not crazy. It's real. It's out there. I experienced it firsthand. So
I was a wimp growing up. I was a wimp. I don't know. Like if I experienced anything like that in any of our houses, like I could not sleep. I would have to mom would give me sleeping medicine. I could not sleep.
Right. And see, and the thing is, when you have to rely on medication, or I've run across people who self-medicate through drugs and alcohol, that makes you more vulnerable. It's a snowball. It's a snowball effect. Stuff rolls downhill. But yeah, it's I don't think I ever got a really good night's rest in that house in 14 years. But it helps when you walk into a place, when you've gone through something like that, you can feel it, right?
Yeah.
So does anybody have any?
Dark though. Mine was never dark. It was just little things. I could feel it. Just little things like doors opening. It wasn't anything dark, thank goodness.
But even
though
even though it wasn't, honey, even though it wasn't a dark, you're still kind of walking around on eggshells. You're still wondering what's going to happen next, right? It's that it's the unknown. It's keeping you off kilter. That can make you, I mean, were you ever totally relaxed in that house?
No, you could feel it.
Right. And that will wear you down. I mean, that's a stressor. You don't know what it is. You don't know where it's coming from. You don't know why. It's a stressor, and it never goes away. Like I said, even though it might be Casper the Friendly Ghost, there's nowhere to hide. They're always right there. Right? They're always right there.
Does anybody have any questions for Chris? And I know Chris.
Or anybody have their own experiences too.
Yes. And I know that you are writing a book about your experience.
Yeah, I got 14 years to put together, and it's just like, oh my gosh, I forgot about this. I got to add this. And like I said, you tend to kind of block things out, because it's stress. It's a stressor. It's very, very difficult to deal with. It really is. Hold on. I'm back. Every time I scroll for comments, I lose my camera. But yeah, because I think people need to hear that it really does happen. It really does occur. And they're not alone. They're not crazy.
I
And
thought I was crazy. I thought for sure I was crazy.
yeah, and how old were you when you had your first experience?
Oh, 5. 5. I started seeing things
Mm-hmm.
like at Grandma's house in Fresno. Like at midnight, all the clocks struck, and then I would like see little things going down the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
At about 5 years old, it started,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it was maybe 11 when it stopped. I didn't have anything else. 11, 12, 11 probably.
Yeah.
It was a lot of medication.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of times the parents will think, "Oh, that's their imaginary friend." No.
One second,
Hey,
Carol. Carol, do you have any questions?
What? I'm sorry.
Do you have any questions about living in a haunted house, or do you have any experiences?
Yeah. So I'm sorry, my daughter was here, and so okay. So my house, not me, but my parents purchased from the original owner, and he had built this house for his daughters. And one of the daughters passed away in like this room over there, which is my mom's room. I moved back here like 2016, and now I'll just be here taking care of my mom. But so growing up, I'm an empath, so I feel everything, like everything. I feel the dirt, I feel the trees, just any, animals, whatever. And so I always felt like a protection, kind of like a grandmotherly, because it was pretty rough growing up. That's all I'm going to say about that. Mm-hmm. But there was times where I'd stay home from school, and I would, in my childlike way, I'd hear the footsteps, because the house is 100 years old. So I would hear the footsteps upstairs, and the wood creaking. Yes, settling happens too, but I remember I would yell upstairs, "I have a bomb," like that's, gonna protect me of that. I thought that was just like, looking back, I'm like, oh, I was such a child that, the noises scared me, but there was nothing that, really worried me. Mm-hmm. But, so it wasn't anything that, I would say, hey mom, there's something under my bed, there's something in my closet, or anything like that. You just thought that this was, how things were. Mm-hmm. You didn't think anything different about it. And my mom was always, I don't know how you put it, like, she had her own things. She had her own, I'm going to say, a gift. Mm-hmm. I'll just say that because I really don't know how to explain it. My dad, on the other hand, if I was to say anything, would be like, he's this big, mean Marine, it'd be like, oh, whatever. Mm-hmm. So I never recall ever seeing anything. Things have happened in my dreams and in my sleep paralysis, shadow figures, whatnot. But I'm not one to always go and say, oh, that's paranormal, or this is this, it's this, that. I'm one to always kind of play it in my head and not just stick on one thing. But that was terrifying. That was a terrifying situation, and I can remember it like it just happened. And there is family. Our house is full of family heirloom antiques, the whole house, everything.
Mhm.
So I have this feeling of my great aunts, and I get like pictures in my head of like the wash table, or the, gosh, I'm just trying to think, the antique ironing board. Pictures in my head of just them using it, right?
Mhm.
It's kind of like a memory, but I wasn't there. I wasn't even born at the time that they would have been this age, things like that. So it's, to me, it's
Well,
then like, oh my God, that just happened, right?
well, it's. I'm glad you kind of brought that up, and we can have another, discussion about this, because items that have emotional attachments, you can have actually memories imprinted
Mm-hmm.
onto that item. So
Yeah.
just because you weren't there,
Yeah.
you can still see that, because we're
Yeah.
empathic. We
Yeah.
get the flashcards, like the
Yeah.
pictures or the little movie clips, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. I
Yeah.
can see the smile.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then a lot of times too with hauntings, people have to discern between, okay, is it an active haunting or is it residual? Because I don't know if everyone knows the difference between the two.
Yeah.
An active haunting is where, like, if you knock on the wall, they knock back. They're
Yeah.
interactive, right? And it changes up all the time.
Yeah.
Now, a residual is like an imprint of something that occurred there all the time, that's actually embedded, like in the
Mm-hmm.
wood. So if somebody was a pacer, if they paced a lot, you'll probably hear them pacing in their room. Or if you had somebody who liked to run up and down the stairs, that's imprinted into the actual wood or the brick,
Yeah. Yeah.
of the building.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's an actual active haunting, things change up all the time. When it's a repetitive, that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a record player,
Yeah.
playing a loop over and over and over again.
But also, there is, it wouldn't be either one of those. It'd just be family members who aren't actively here that just want to show up, and just want to just say,
Hey,
or
I'm here.
just not even to say anything, just watch you, just like, you know
Well,
I don't think my dad is one who would have, but he has come to dream, has come to our dreams, some family members and things, but just to look, to watch, just to, um
and that would be something that we could have a totally different show on, that because there's a lot of good information there that you're sharing.
yeah.
And what I'm picking up on right now is that there's nothing negative in your house at all. And a lot of times they just want to come forward and let you know that, hey, we see you, we see the birthday, we see the celebration, we see the anniversary.
Yeah.
And usually what you'll find is that usually around a certain date where there's a big event coming up, this will pop into your head, or that person will pop into your head, or this will happen, or that will happen. That's not a coincidence, okay?
Mm-mm.
Because they're still
Yeah.
here. But that would be a really, really good show that we can have on personal experiences and what we go through, and especially with being psychic medium empaths. That would be a really good show to have, so we can compare notes.
Yeah. Yeah. I just love talking to people who kind of get it, you know what I mean, who just
Yeah.
get it. And because it's just, there's just energy everywhere, like, it's, everything tells a story. And I'm
Mhm.
big on the houses. I'm big on, my house is alive.
Mhm.
My house is alive.
Mhm.
And what bring it to life was from the farmer who built it,
Mhm.
or his children that lived here, my parent. It's just, somebody posted something in one of my Facebook groups about a house being alive, and I also read something about, you feed it this good energy, because it will suck up the bad. And it's just like, trees. Like I've watched this thing on Netflix about the trees and the fungus underneath that carries it, like the vibration to other trees. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I was getting like goosebumps about, it's just like, it's how amazing is it?
Well, kind of off topic, but I want to share something with trees really fast.
Yeah.
Which you're gonna find really interesting. Hold on, I lost my camera again. Okay, you guys got to understand, I'm a slider as well. It's SLDR, so it's an acronym for something. I affect electronics. I screw up computers. I screw up TVs. I blow light bulbs. But with trees, my husband and I, we have a cottage up north. And if anybody's familiar with Michigan, this is off topic. It's just kind of a fun, talking point. If anyone's familiar with Michigan, every weekend we have a mass exodus north. Everyone has a vacation house up north. I think that started back in the Prohibition days, where people would go north and get away from the big cities and do whatever. But anyways, last year I kept hearing this tone. It was like a high pitched squealing noise, and it was like 3 different notes. And I'm like, what? I said, Bob, do you hear that? And he goes, hear what? And I go, I keep hearing this squealing noise. Come to find out, our oak tree came down with oak wilt.
Oh.
And as it was dying, I found out they give off an ultrasonic tone.
Yeah.
Because it's a change in, hang on. It's a change in moisture within the tree. And when the tree is stressed, basically it was screaming. And when it died, it stopped. And I thought, okay, that's a coincidence. Nope. That happened again this summer. I told my husband, I says, I'm hearing that squealing noise again. Hold on. Okay, I'm hearing that squealing noise. You guys, I'm just not letting me keep the video. So can you still hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
So I told my husband, I says, I hear that squealing noise again. I think somebody's got oak wilt. Sure enough, stinks. Somebody got onto Facebook and goes, is anyone having a problem with their oak trees getting brown and dying off? And I'm like, you got oak wilt. So it wasn't a coincidence.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything's like energy. Everything's connected.
Yeah. Well, so 2 things. It's a scientific fact about the energy of trees.
Yeah.
But yet people kind of boohoo the other energy,
Why call us tree huggers?
Yeah, like why can some things have energy, but you know what I'm saying, like but oh no, it doesn't happen like that, or it doesn't affect this, or it's not in this. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But I wanted to say, when you were talking about the oak tree, so we have almost 2 acres, and all around our house has always been fields, and they've growing the corn, the beans, alternate, right? So this I can't even remember what it was it last year, this fall, I can't even remember. They started to dig it all up, and they were cutting some trees down. I was depressed. I had no energy. I was emotional. And it was because of that. It really was. And once they stopped, then it kind of stopped. And now they're kind of at a standstill. They did put a couple of roads in and stuff, but they haven't really did much back here. So it'll probably all happen again. But I know people are going to think I'm crazy, but I did go to the back into the tree line, and I did my own apology for these people who would dig, because well, thank you for, because some people are like, okay, Carol, but
no. You just got validation, because I did the same thing.
Yeah.
And I did that as a child before we moved into Saginaw. Our road on Revere. We were like 1 block away from Lake St. Clair. Okay. And it was an older subdivision that was built for the World War II vets to come home and have a place to live. It was the old Sears pre-built or
Yeah.
pre-bought Cape Cods
Mm-hmm.
with the old tongue and groove. And we had the whole road was canopied with old oaks.
Oh, wow.
And they had to cut ours down because it was getting into the sewer and causing a problem. I was probably maybe 4 at the most, maybe.
Yeah.
My heart broke, absolutely broke. And my first paranormal experience or spiritual experience was probably when I was around 3 to 4, probably about 4 years old. And so you wind up having experiences and you like, ooh, and I was young enough, but I knew enough. This is something special. Don't let it go. Because the shadow person that I saw said, don't be afraid. I'm here to help you. And I'm thinking, what are you helping me with? Shortly thereafter, we moved to Saginaw when we had all the problems. So I feel that was my guardian, my spirit guide coming with me to help deal and protect me, because Lord knows what could have happened. My mom was washing glass in the sink, right? And she's done this I don't know how many times before. This time the dang thing broke and damn near cut her finger off.
Yeah.
And my dad was at work. She had to call him and say, come home. I got to go to the ER. They said any more, it would have cut tendons. You would have lost your finger.
Ah,
So, when you deal with the paranormal of any sort, it's very, very stressful until you get older, and then you kind of learn more and you understand more and you're able to handle it. But like I said, with parents, don't sequester your kids, don't poo-poo your kids. Listen to them.
Yep. Yep.
Because it could be very, 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 very much real.
Yeah.
Very much real.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say there's a lot of family who also have that. There's some young family members too, and their mom has always been that way, like, oh yeah, and like tell me about it, this and this and that. So it's not like a strange thing.
Right. And then
Yeah.
people with abilities. Now it is generational. It does
Mm-hmm.
run in the family. It runs on my side, my mom's side of the family, right?
Yeah.
It is generational. And we're targeted, because we're kind of like, and I think that's why that entity came after me the most, because I had the most energy and I was the brightest thing that I could see. So it comes towards that positive energy and it comes towards that light.
Yeah.
So people with abilities were very much prone to having things follow us home. I had something follow me home from my previous job.
Ooh.
Very nasty, very nasty. And I knew that it was here because it was moving things in the house. It was moving like my towel on the towel rack got straightened out. And then my loofah got thrown like a football in the shower.
Oh,
Said,
no.
Yeah. I says, okay, I know you're here. So I got my digital recorder out, the good investigator that I am. And I says, I know the dogs can see you, right? That's why I love having animals in the house, right? Because they're my first line of defense. Okay.
Yeah.
And I says, I know the dogs can see you. I says, whistle for the dogs. That's if you can. Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I played back my digital recorder and I heard, I'll not whistle. I'll hurt you. And I go, no, you won't, you SOB. You don't know who you're dealing with. And I promptly kicked. It growled at my husband because it was late at night and I was going to get it the next day. And my husband yelled down. He goes, Chris? And I go, what? Get this thing out of here tomorrow. And I go, what did it do? He goes, it growled at me. I says, what you tell him? He says, shut the I'm sleeping.
There you go.
He didn't take any smack off this thing. And so I cleansed and sealed the house and got it gone. And you know what? For 2 weeks, you guys, this thing circled the house, knocking on windows, knocking on the side of the house,
Oh,
knocking on the garage door, knocking on the front door. And I told my husband, I says, you hear 3 knocks on the front door? Don't you open it, because
oh
that's
my
an
God.
invite to come back in.
Yeah. Oh
And
my
sure
God.
enough, I was gone. I'm doing an investigation.
Yeah.
3 knocks on the front door. Dogs went ballistic. And I says, what did you do? He goes, I opened the blinds and nobody was there. And he says, go away. And he closed it. I says, you didn't open the door, did you? He goes, no, I did not. I says,
Oh
thank
my
you,
God.
Jesus.
Thank God it wasn't knock, knock, knock. Open, please.
Oh,
Oh my gosh, that's spooky.
it's stuck, and they're opportunistic, you guys. I mean, I did an investigation and I told the guy and the wife, I says, if you hear 3 knocks on the door, don't open it.
Well, they're listening all the time.
They are. Oh no, they know. Yeah, they know.
But when you said that about the shower, isn't that that would be me, the most vulnerable? I'm naked in a shower and you're going to throw something at me?
Well, I was in the shower in the old house, and I heard the door open, and I thought it was my mom coming in. Wasn't anything unusual, right?
Yeah.
And the shower curtain opened up. I'm like, what? And I look, nobody there.
Holy cow.
So here I am, naked as a jaybird, right? So again, nowhere to hide, no flipping privacy, none.
Mm.
And stuff happened in the bathroom with Mom and I in there. She was a witness. We had 2 tall racks that fell at the same time, simultaneous. We had bowls move in the kitchen, simultaneous. We had the oven door open in front of my boyfriend, scared the hell out of him. He goes, I didn't touch it. Like, I know you didn't. Yeah.
I didn't touch it.
Nope.
Oh,
His
goodness.
eyes got. I go, someone's just helping us with dinner. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's always a good.
Well, you get desensitized.
That's it. Yeah.
You do.
You do.
You're like,
yeah.
Every day.
Yeah. But that's always a good thing if you have somebody that you don't like that's in your house. And it's just like, okay, have at have at him. Scare the heck out of him.
And that's one of the reasons why my high school friend Carol, which I'm still friends with, she was in the house once, maybe twice. And when she would come in, I was kind of hoping she was going to hop on tonight, but I don't dare check because I lose the feed. I says, Carol, I said, what was your feeling of the house? She goes, I didn't like it. She says, it was creepy. And I says, well, what did you notice when you came in the house? She goes, the house was cold. Cold. She goes, it wasn't inviting. It was physically cold and emotionally cold. She goes, it was a very creepy vibe. So I never told Carol anything about the house until years later. She's, I never liked that house, Chris. I never liked it.
That's when I go places. Okay, you know what another good show would be? Because I've dealt with this my whole life. Being an empath, having gifts, but also having PTSD and trauma, trying to separate and not think you're going crazy. I was at the mall with friends one time and I had a panic attack. It was like junior high maybe. And at this time I didn't even know that I had PTSD, but I did at that time. And it was just, so I'm in there with the friends. I've been to malls before, but not with a group of friends.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have that motherly figure with me or an older sister, right? And I had this freaking panic attack. I thought it was just like, I told another friend, one that I'm closer with, we gotta go. And she looked at me like, what? And just kind of ignored it like I was crazy. And I remember going out of there thinking I was freaking nuts. And now I can look back at all those little situations. Anxiety can be just anxiety, right? But it also can be, from, being an empath and all this stuff. But man, if I had any idea when I was younger or what, I wouldn't have suffered so much. And if somebody is still, and they've made it to an adult to not figure out they have not only PTSD, trauma, anxiety, and are an empath, I just feel for them. That is not a life that is not fun. You know what I mean? Like, I can go, I mean, you know this too. You can go to a store and you can feel the last 100 people that were there. You can go to a house. Like, I remember looking at houses to rent, and I could just feel, or to buy, looking at, like, ooh, this does not feel good. This does not feel good. And it's just like, I knew that I couldn't live there with that. It could be the best deal. It could be, the most beautiful house. But it's like, nope. Somebody, because usually what happens when they say, oh, I've never seen a house this cheap. It's such a good deal. Oh, it's usually haunted. That's why
There's usually a reason.
Yeah.
But you know what? We'll Cassie, we'll get together, and I think this would be a really good conversation that the three of us can have and bring other people on board.
Yeah.
Because I think there's more people that would like to get in on this conversation about being sensitive and having abilities.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and we'll table this discussion for tonight. Let's go ahead and work on another broadcast down the road now that I got everything working. And definitely, we'll get the word out and get more people on, because I think this is a really good topic to go ahead and cover with people with like abilities and what to recognize and how to handle things. And that can be, because we're over an hour at this point, and I don't want to miss anybody else to be part of this conversation. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and we'll table this, get some ideas together, get some questions together. Let's go ahead and probably our next get together. Let's discuss. Okay, so you have abilities. Now what? Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So, but well, thanks, Carol, for popping on. It's wonderful to hear from you. Yes. Let's have you back on the next time we come on with the issues we're dealing with. And I think we'll have a lot more people hopping on.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Chop Shop, for letting us air it on your guys' too. And we'll see you guys next time.
All right. Bye-bye.